Hello, writers. Happy Monday. Welcome to your Monday Morning Jumpstart back with our Ted Capshaw. Hello, Ted.
What's happening? What's happening, Jade? What's happening, everybody? It's been a little bit.
First, what summertime this year you joined us. So happy, warm wishes and all that good stuff to
Oh God.
everyone.
Happy hot wishes. We're on the
Yes.
East Coast, so it is like brown grass and 100 degrees. It is hot.
It is
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Well, Tate, I wanted to open today with you bringing you back to us with something that honestly, when I probably think about this like 2 to 3 times a week with your voice in my head, when everybody always talks about like you leave work at the office and you come home and you separate things and all the separated boxes and all that, and then you were like, no, work is personal, or work and personal are one. So why do you say that? What do you mean? Can you illustrate that to others so that maybe they'll get that same picture and reminder that I often get when I need that reminder?
There's so many different angles we could take with this one, honestly, because I've thought about this deeply. Like, and when I mean different angles, let me give you a couple different angles. Like one,
Yes.
when we talk about performance at work, and when I'm coaching leaders, and leaders that have the fundamental belief that you need to separate work from life. If you have something going on at home, as the adage says, you need to leave that at the door and come here and perform, right? What that leader is missing is, because we're not acknowledging that and coaching and developing the whole person, they're actually not maximizing their performance in that day, that they have something going on. We want to dismiss that as if that's not a truth. That's a truth. If I have a bad fight with my wife and I show up to work, I am not the best employee of the day. I'm just not. I'm not at my best. Versus a 10-minute acknowledgement of, I'm in a bad place. Here's what I could use, blah, 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 blah. Now, in today's world, particularly after the pandemic, everybody gets freaked out and people are taking advantage of it. All true. However, so that's an example of you can't separate. And then just looking at your own development, right? Which I'm sure we'll get into this month in these MMJs, this idea that business is personal. And even when you think about, do you really separate, like I say this to everybody that I coach, do you really separate life from business, your work life from this? Like, be realistic about it. And when I say realistic, well, when you come home, what do you talk to your spouse about? What percentage of time are you talking about work? You have to think about it. Like, you don't separate it. Like, let's stop fooling ourselves and saying that you separate the two. The two are not separate. And I actually think we'll maximize our potential in life when we learn to unify the two.
Yes,
So
agree.
I'm not even talking about this idea. And I don't want to go on a rant here, but everybody says we need work-life balance and all this other stuff.
Yes.
And there's a lot of great speak about this, about are we really after work-life balance? It's not about balance. And the word that I've been using as of late, just call it language, is this unification of work and life. I have often said that I'm fascinated by the intersection of the human experience and business, you know?
Mhm.
And it's about time that we look at that very carefully, because I think if we look at to strategically and intentionally intertwine the two, we're not going to be talking about balance. We're going to start to understand that work feeds life and life feeds our performance at work. They're both equally, you know, and there's an intersection there. And so we have to talk about that intersection.
So many people are very quick to realize, and because it's so glaringly obvious most times, that when you're stressed in life, when you're stressed in work, it impacts life, right? But very few people then will take that same thing on the flip side and realize when you are happy at work or in your work or with what you do, how that impacts life, right?
Look at that circle you just created. This momentum circle that you're talking about. When you start feeding and leading, so I can go back to the leadership example because it's an easy
Mm-hmm.
example to
Mm-hmm.
articulate what we're talking about. If a leader was to look at that whole person and realize this is a cyclical thing, like this is a circular thing, and that if I pay attention and I want this person, that part of my intention, Jade, is to make Jade and support Jade in her yearning to be the best mom ever of her two kids, then I am actually, in essence, feeding her performance at work
Yes.
instead of fighting it. instead of fighting. Like, it just seems to me that, Jade, you're more concerned about your kids than you are work. And you believe me when I tell you that leaders, stuff like that comes out of people's
100%.
mouths. It seems like you're not all in at work and da 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 da. And I go, well, wait, hold on. Well, are you all in when you're here is my main concern.
Yes.
And then, by the way, are you feeling fulfilled at work so that when you go home, you're all in at home as well? Or do I feel like I'm creating the struggle for you? Because oftentimes, anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about leadership now, but think about what you said. It feeds the two. And so are we taking this holistic approach? Sometimes we just compartmentalize this stuff. And there's places in life that you should compartmentalize things. But in this instance, I think we have to have deeper discussions around the intersection of life and business, not separating the two, not creating balance between the two and all the rest of that, just understanding the effect and impact that the two have on each other daily.
Because I think the reason why it hit me so hard is because it impacts how I make decisions. Because so often, if you think you can compartmentalize them, I would bet almost anything that you make sacrifices of happiness in business or in employment or anything along those lines because I can box it up and leave it somewhere. If you believe that, right? Because then you wouldn't be holding it to the same high standards that you hopefully do your personal life, those people that you surround yourself with, the decisions of where you go, what you do, how you spend your time. Because so much of it,
You
first
do
of
make
business.
decisions.
Yes, yes. So that is why I think it is such an important realization. Number one, we've never discussed this. And number two, this, I don't know if this will be for or against this, but when we were talking, I even realized I did it to the point of like hiring my team, right? Like thinking, are these people that I want to be in the trenches with, that I want to spend all my time with, that I want to be able to, do and give and grow with? Like, do I want that with these people at my side versus they're going to be the best technical fulfillment of that job role
That's right.
position, right? Because it's
That's
a
right.
partnership. It's a partnership with you.
Right.
And to bring it to our writers, hopefully then, and I feel like we've just touched on this in the past, like that's how you would bring on clients then, right? Like if you think about business and personal as one, like one big ball, and you bring on a client, are you looking at like if this is somebody you want to spend and give time to versus this is somebody that's just going to fulfill a paycheck at the end of the day? I feel like it's a different lens
That's
to make
right.
a decision with.
Well, you're bringing up a massive point about what we're talking about here is not just, we are talking about, you should be predicating decisions on what we're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
About how work will support the life that you want. And quite frankly, can you go all in at this job?
Yes.
Because work deserves that too.
Yes.
The interesting thing is sometimes people come down to me and they'll say, you know what, Ted, and this is going to be an interesting dynamic because a lot of people think I just go all personal. No, some people, they're feeling out of bounds. I said, well, let's talk about how you're spending your time at work, right? And what I peel back is they're not going all in at work.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I coach them to do is go all in at work for a day. And here's what that looks like. Let's map out what it would look like if you went all into work. I want you to do that and then tell me how you felt at 5 o'clock when you left. And 9 out of 10 times, maybe even 10 out of 10 times, they go, oh my God, I felt awesome. You see the difference because you went all in. You're blaming the company and whatever. You didn't go all in. So if you go all in, all of a sudden you feel energized. You felt like you provided value. And then you went home and you brought that energy and it went right back into it. And then the flip side and then it feeds the two, which is what you talked about. But I do believe people should be predicating decisions on this. And so when you're doing this and you're trying to build this life for yourself as a writer, you should be deeply considering the intersection of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And, as we'll get into, are you bringing your full self into things like trying to get clients, or are you just putting your quote unquote business hat on?
Mm-hmm.
Which I will probably regard, I would say that's a mistake too.
Mm-hmm.
So again, but that's from the old school thinking of you have to separate life and business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a different person. A goal for me with many leaders that I work with, I'll ask them simple questions, right? Hey, how would your best friend describe you?
Mm-hmm.
I'll do like a section, like a cross section of people. How would your spouse describe you? How would your employees describe you? And when they're all over the board, then I go, here's the work that we have to do. We have to, next year, when I start asking people to describe you, I want there to be these intersections that are the core of who you are, and there's similarities in each bucket. Because now we are bringing our full self and our most powerful self to the table everywhere we go every day. And we're not trying to put, because that's what's freaking exhausting. So we have to deeply consider this thought about this whole life and personal and, all the stuff that you're bringing up today. That's what I meant in the beginning, Jade, when I said maybe we can peel this back in separate MMJs. I think we're going to plan on doing that this month, but there's different levels to this. It's not as easy as just saying you can't separate it. It has to do with performance. It has to do with, you bring up the excellent point of predicating decisions, right? It has to do with leadership. It has to do with approach with clients, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
This is all reminding me, this is a very true story. I'm not going to use any names, but when I first got into the consulting, and doing coaching, it was for a small company here in Maryland. And I mean, at this point, it was probably 23, 24 years ago. And I was with my wife, Angel, in a new relationship. We had just moved in together. And I'll never forget, about 7 or 8 months into employment, the two owners of the consulting company pulled me into their conference room. And I'll never forget, their exact words were, "It seems like you just can't wait to get out of here every day." And it's exactly what you and I were thinking, which is why I'm so passionate about what I'm thinking, because my life unwound and I predicated decisions, to your point, around that comment. And I'll never forget saying to them, "But I can't wait to get out of here. Like, I actually love my girl, Angel, who I wound up marrying, and I can't wait to get home to her." And at the time we had a dog, Hershey, and I'm like, I just can't wait to get home to them. And guess what? Does that mean I'm not all in at work? Is that what you're trying to say? Because now think about the depths of what I said. And by the way, I made a decision to leave that company. And look where I am now. So it's very real, and it's right in front of us. And we have to we have to have deeper conversations about this one.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, like like the people that I get the privilege to work with every day, I'm happy for them at the end of the day that they get to do, and like we celebrate that, right? Like it's like go do be, and like if you need to go during the day, go do be, and like if something is going on, let me know, because you deserve to be treated with that lens and that knowledge, and it makes the day so much richer. Like I never, what is the word? Like reach out with like a nervous anticipation. Any conversation that I have with people I work with, I'm excited to have, because I truly like them. I know what's going on. It's going to be a fun thing to catch up. So it makes everything so much richer, because time is time and life is life. There's no separation there. So, oh no, I love that example.
Well, I know we're going a little long on this one. This is what I'd say. Like, if you're listening to this today, don't swing the pendulum one way or another, because I think you could easily hear on this, because this is what, depending on what camp you're in, you could hear like, well, they're just saying be personal and, let people to live their, tell Jade to go focus on being a mom and not worry about business. And how can I hire someone, all that kind of stuff. So don't swing the pendulum over there. And also don't swing, because listen to what I said about work, right? Like if you did an honest assessment, because you're so hell-bent on like, I'm going to be the best mom, you're probably not going all in at work. This is not about time, is what I want to tell you. This is not about time spent, where you're spending time, most time. This is about intention and effort in both buckets. And when you start focusing in on that, you will start to see them come. But they're so freaking intertwined, and I'm sick of trying to battle people that you have to separate the two. Like, you're a freaking human being before you're anything else.
100%.
This is part of life's journey.
100%. I think that if we get into next week, like the journey of self and how it applies to business, I think it'll paint this picture even deeper. But I hope that what Ted said at the end there, that you just exclamation point that like you are a human. So if you need to analyze or look at how you're spending, your energy and your efforts and the outcome, because like Ted always says, the outcome is prosperity and happiness, right? And if that is not what you're feeling right now, let's get into like, what could be the reasoning for that not happening. So Ted, if we're ready, we can pick up next week on your
Cool.
journey of self in business. Is that how you frame it?
Yeah.
Perfect. All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. Lots to think about today, and we will see you next week. Bye, Ted.
See ya.